3, 2, 1, go!
Friday Night Funkin. Surely this game needs no introduction. I'm sure that a solid 80% of the people who clicked on this video know exactly what this game is. But to those 80%, a metric that I certainly did not make up, do you really know what this game's about? A simple game where a boy goes beep boop that perhaps represents something more, and for what it does represent, has an element being drowned out by the incredible amount of popularity and widespread influence that it itself has cultivated. Time may have broken down its popularity, but the popularity once commanded was so great that it induced multiple so-called eras within the modding scene. Is where Friday Night Funkin' is today a true representation of its original message? Or is it a simple, hollow shell designed to cheaply draw in the impressions of the impressionable? In other words, is Friday Night Funkin' a victim to its own success? The first taste we got of Friday Night Funkin' was the trailer released on the 16th of November in 2020, nothing more than 73 seconds, introducing the bare-bones plot and short samples of 2 of the 3 songs within the first week, a week being a set of songs accompanying a character within the context of the game. A 4-key rhythm game, sort of reminiscent of TTR almost, at least in terms of design. You primarily go back and forth, echoing the melody played out to you to rack up points and such. Not much to it, and it seems as though the main team, that being these beautiful people here, don't want you to overthink things. You want to Friday night fuck your girlfriend, but her ex-rockstar dad doesn't want his daughter going out with trash like you. And let's admit it, for all we know, the character you play as could be a moochy little son of a bitch who may genuinely love his girlfriend dearly, but is also kind of a snarky asshole. This is perhaps more likely than not. Talking about characters, we should probably get some of those out of the way. That's Boyfriend, real name apparently Boyfriend. The same goes for Girlfriend over there. Her parents are Daddy Dearest and Mommy Mirrorest, and the cacophony of characters following mostly have their own identities as prevalent characters on the parent platform of Newgrounds, like Pico from Pico School, a game that if you know, you know, and Skid and Pump from Senor Pello's Spooky Month series. If only they could stop almost bringing about the end of the world every Halloween. Each week and their associated character, whether using one that's original to the game or not, all have original tracks, mostly composed by the wonderful Kawaii Sprite. Using custom-made chromatics or scale of vocals, FNF manages to capture the sound of characters, both with the sounds they make and the instrumentals molded. Let's take the song Pico from the Pico Week featuring Pico as a quick example.
3, 2, 1, go!
Cold air, sirens wailing. Distant lights bear down on you from towering cinder structures a short drive away. A dark cityscape, the rundown foundations of a railway at your feet. Then a little gingerhead prick with a submachine gun suddenly starts blamming you with bars in place of hot lead bullets. Streetlights pump with color as you dance with the threat of death. But there's this silent breath of serenity with Pico's raspy, radio-thinned vocals. They have this faint undertone of actual vocality to them, like actual words are being said in contrast to the beeps and boops of Boyfriend. Mixing electric hip-hop with long-droning lo-fi synths, this song sort of reminds me of a calmer jet-set radio track, praise be to Hideki Naganuma. The vibe is like a chemical reaction, the sound you can enjoy while playing the game. It doesn't overtake your senses, the vocals, nor the instrumental, and that sort of makes sense, seeing as though FNF seems to be more about the experience rather than getting a high score. I haven't seen too many people admonish FNF for being too hard, at least when it comes to rhythm game veterans. And playing through it myself, they're right, it's not a hard game. Really, it isn't. But I am a musical person who has spent a lot of time behind a keyboard, so I can hit keys to a beat and read arrows on a monitor decently well. Not everyone is as useless to society as me, and I understand that. So it's fine if you think the game's hard, it's fine. Back to the point, other than original charting issues and hit registration being sort of weird, it wasn't hard to pass the weeks, something the tsunami of a fandom would strive to correct in the following year or so, thank you everyone. Call this a wild guess or some semblance of intuition, but I think the idea behind FNF was to create something that's fun and work out the details later. And from a purely creative point of view, that outlook is perhaps not too dissimilar to the spoken equivalent of Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, an idyllic yet tangible concept. An almost universal law of sorts, but hard to put into practice at times. Let's just work out the details later. It's something that I think the crew literally did. Obscure details like how Pico and Boyfriend used to date, how Girlfriend actually has ADHD, the fact that Girlfriend and Boyfriend play obscure Newgrounds games to settle disputes like it's a fucking legally binding contract. It's all so retrospective. So much so that the crew may as well be walking backward at this point, putting out things behind them while making it to the finish line. And yet, it's just so human. Like friends discussing their OCs and relating them to IRL situations were nothing other than fun. Which is exactly what I described! At this point, dropping to my knees in holy reverence is all I can do, because not only did Ninja Muff and all the guys here adhere to that creative principle, but they succeeded. Their little funky project created for a game jam was turning heads, and they were happy to provide for them. We got week after week, the game gradually updating with new content as time went on, introducing Girlfriend's Mother, Step on Me Mommy Mirrors, the first 3 words of which may or may not be part of a name, infamous for that one part in that one song MILF. Wow, I mean that could stand for a number of things, for the record. It was the hardest thing the game had to offer at that point, and it really made waves for a while. Cute. Very cute. Content didn't stop flowing though. Senpai and Spirit debuted in this cool pixel art style, and eventually the Newgrounds mascot himself, Tankman, appeared in the final week released to the public, Week 7. Things just kept getting better. Songs were more interesting, the engine for the hit reg became more responsive, with the charting keeping up by becoming more challenging, art was becoming more explosive and bombastic, and the community just continued to eat it all up. But as the high of Pico barging in and blending an entire platoon of cartoonish men of tanks wore off, and the curtains began to close on the final song of the final week, an announcement was made, one that was sure to rock the foundations of the community. Kickstarter. To some, that word elicits some modicum of disgust, deceit, ill intent. To others, excitement and opportunity. For as many wonderful projects are funded and given the ability to thrive and bloom to their wildest desire, there's another 10 that fizzle out and die, driving expectation into the dirt and ripping apart dreams and wishes alike. A lot of games come here to try and find success, become something. But for the Friday Night Funkin' crew, they kicked open the doors, looking to become something bigger. The audience the game had garnered had come to the point of frank ludicrousy, and the team behind the game would have had to have ripped out every sensory organ in their system to avoid that fact. But with this audience, they found possibility. What if they could make everything they could ever want with this game? Cutscenes, playable characters, more songs. It'd take a lot of effort and a lot of money, but you miss every shot you don't take. Friday Night Funkin', a game that hip-thrust its way into the mainstream. A game so simple, yet so captivating, bringing a semi-renaissance to Newgrounds, a platform that had long since fallen out of the limelight because of less than PC content and the evolution of the internet, asked for a measly $60,000 to fund their dream game. Almost a spit in the face to the amount of attention this game had already gotten, because when all was said and done, it managed to raise over $2.2 million. I don't know. Something tells me the team had an inkling of the amount of money this project could raise, what with their egregious stretch goals like a PC1 port of the full game and getting Studio fucking Trigger to animate an entire week for them, all for the low cost of $6 million fucking dollars. It's the essence of, if they'll let us, we'll do it, as ballsy as that is. But with $2.2 million, this covers a whole 10-week epilogue to the story that already probably has 20 planned for it. Everything you could ever want about this game and its origins are right here on this page, blotted down like an ink signature on a line. This was a game made by a bunch of nerds who wanted to make a fun rhythm game with cool music and art, on a platform that had lost its luster and light. What was a bustling center of the internet turned home to the nichely talented, one that they had a connection to, and one that they loved. Friday Night Funkin' was for them, and people enjoying it was just an add-on to that. They weren't the type to give in to hype and constantly leak or promote what they would do with their immense budget. No, they'd learned to do better and do right by themselves, thus doing right by the community who had gathered under that banner for the past year. And that sentiment would be evident, as after the 7th week and the Kickstarter finally ended, the crew would close its curtains, leaving the fanbase to sit back in anticipation of what would be released next. But you would have to be an idiot to think the tidal wave of fans would let that be that. What, you thought that was it? No, that was just the start, the tip of this supposed iceberg. And it appeared as though countless felt the same way. Friday Night Funkin' wouldn't end for them, not for a long time. For in the stead of official content, the community decided to take it into their own hands and produce content for themselves and all others in a similar position to them, simply waiting for more. This is the world of Friday Night Funkin' mods. And what a world it is. This is the Versus Witty mod, subtitled The Back Alley Blitz, and I wouldn't call it outrageous to suggest this was the mod that started it all. It was a progenitor of many future tropes with an original character, original songs, and fucking dialogue. I know, revolutionary, right? A demo was released in early 2021, around the end of January, a whole 3 months before the final week of the official demo was released, and a full week containing 3 songs in the style of the official game was released not a month later. Versus Witty managed to tell a cohesive story in a few frames of animation, dialogue, and composition choice. I'd like to say that a lot of people are overthinking things, like how with BF going first means that he's instigating the fight, but I think that too, and I'm not that much of an asshole. Sock clips fantastic character design let Woody stand out, while also pushing him into the universe of the game. Cade's engine, what would eventually become an industry standard for many people after a few tweaks, as well as Nate and BB Pansy's involvement, culminated in this almost template-like structure that people would follow. That template being: Song 1, boyfriend shows up and starts rapping for no reason. Song 2, character gets slightly annoyed after losing to him. Song 3, character wants to commit multiple war crimes and throw orphan ashes into the faces of homeless men. Hell, it wasn't even the first time FNF experienced this weak format. Week 5 did the exact same thing, with the senpai character eventually breaking apart to reveal a malevolent spirit wanting to trap boyfriend and girlfriend in a dating sim. People who create would love this format. People who consumed came to make fun of it. But with Woody's popularity, it was inevitable to standardize countless things for the community. And then what would come next would be what some consider the golden age for the modding community. Let's run down this list. After the likes of Woody, we got the likes of Atsuova's Garcello, popularizing the "they turn into the color of the arrow" trope, while flipping the script on the standardized week format, turning the final song to something a little more hopeful and uplifting rather than, well, genocidal and genocidal. There was Yin Yang's Hex that made a short, cohesive story that captured the hearts of many. Swanky Box's Zadi that tested the limits of the community's rhythmic skill by providing a decently long challenge. The Tricky mod was created in tribute to the long-time-running Madness Combat series made by Crinkles, featuring powering screamo vocals and a strangely satisfying visual that honors its source material. The series is still being posted to this day, by the way, so make sure to check it out. Last but not least, one of my personal favorites, Mid-Fight Masses, created by the wonderful Doki Doodles, Mike Gino, and Kuroa. While this age of mods could be considered irreplaceable and blaze the trail for future mods in general, that wouldn't stop people from having opinions. With all the hype surrounding Friday Night Funkin', these opinions were little more than contrite criticisms and mild appraisals. The collective consciousness of anonymous faces and names didn't care for the creators or their feelings. They simply wanted something to play. While Friday Night Funkin' was originally just a dumb, fun project made by a bunch of friends wanting to create something they were proud of, there were now people on the other side of the window, waiting and expecting a certain experience. And if that experience wasn't up to their standard, well, actually, this is Sarvente's, Sarvant? This is Mid-Fight Masses, and like I said, it's actually one of my personal favorites. There's nothing cheesy as to why, nothing tear-jerking either. Something about it just clicked with me, and by something, I mean everything. Except the engine. The designs of the characters, while perhaps not 100% immersed in the world of FNF, are pleasingly aesthetic. Sure, Sexy Nun is a little overdone, but Sarvente's design is tasteful enough for me to find it cute, and I appreciate it. The second character, Ruve, is also tropey, but big fluffy parkas are a soft spot for me. Wait a second. Doki's character design gives him this strangely nostalgic feeling to me, and only recently did I place it. It reminds me of Undertale, weirdly enough. The original designs are simplistic enough that if people wanted to keep true to the source, it's not too hard. Circle heads and simple eye shapes, relying more on outline and general shapes than overly specific detail to get the idea of the character across. But for the people who do love detail, they're free to go wild and take creative liberty to its furthest degree. Some too far. Some a little too far, god. Not only are their outlines simple, but so are their color schemes. Sarvente is based off Neapolitan ice cream, and Ruve is based off a fucking arcade card that has an Oreo stamp on it. What? The simple color scheme lets their faces pop out from their outfits in a way that makes their unnatural skin tones just work. I mean, I've created a disgusting amount of Undertale fan art, and this mod lit the same fire, if only briefly. Of course, everything is my opinion, as a vaguely experienced amateur artist in big, thick italic quotation marks. However, I genuinely feel as though the cute nun Sarvente and her mean Russian friend Ruvy's Vat are designed well, unlike the engine. And that's not even getting into the lore of these characters. Jesus, there's a lot of lore. And you could probably tell that Doki Doodles had these characters on the back burner for a while, because you could probably reverse engineer an entire forest with all the paper it'd take to put this detail down in writing. Ruve, or Ruvy's Van, is a Russian terrorist in the vein of Robin Hood, fighting for the poor and etc, etc. He's a stoic and easily unamused individual who finds himself in Sarvente's church. A lot of his details give the impression of him being a massive fucking edgelord, a label that a lot of the community latched onto during the mod's heyday. Such details include, despite never having drunk, Ruve has a massive tolerance for alcohol, is not ticklish, constantly uses excessive force, does not understand jokes. Not humor, by the way, he literally does not understand the very idea of a joke, a string of words that elicit some sort of a reaction, and has never cried. He isn't the only one. Sarvente isn't immune to the, how should I put it, OC stereotype syndrome either. I can say this, by the way, I have the same problem. Despite appearing as a nun, she's actually the fucking devil. Cast out of heaven because apparently God is a bitch. She still tries to get people to go to heaven though, hence the whole nun thing. Oh, and the two are bound by some eternal ritual soul bond thing where if one of them breaks it, the other dies. Forgot that part, probably important. Needless to say, this overload of detail at first glance could seem cringe. A word that I feel has lost all its meaning since 2018, but whatever. Personally, I find it endearing. While the whole edgelord has a soft spot for cute girl thing could be considered cringe, this isn't your story to tell. And for someone to think of all this for just 2 characters who don't even have a proper medium like a full serialized comic or whatever, goes to show the amount of love they have for their creation. These 2 are their own characters, and the creator can make whatever stereotype or trope they want. That's the essence of creation, making something that you want because it makes you happy. And for the people who don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to be an ass about it. Plus, the artist has made several pieces of Sarventi and Rue featuring in the style of the artist Woomer, so they're automatically correct when it comes to design. Still, while the art is amazing in this mod, the hit registration makes me want to fucking kill. Not to mention the music. God, the music. Mike Jenner became a household name for a reason. His custom boyfriend sound font is as recognizable as a picture of Jesus Christ at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and his ability to compose addictive and memorable songs is a talent that only few in the community can say they truly have, even to this current day. The engine still lets it down though. The beautiful thing about FNF is that there's no real FNF sound. So long as boyfriend does his beeps and boops, you can basically turn any old thing into an FNF song with a chart and a random sound you turn into a chromatic. Chart? You can barely call this shit a chart. I mean, how many double notes do you expect me to hit here? Mike's creative direction when it comes to the mid-fight masses songs also really shines. We're told that this is indeed a church, yet the instrumental borders on this almost club disco vibe with sunking snare and powerful pumping bass, showcased brilliantly in the song Worship, where Sarv's goody two-shoes act begins to falter slightly in the face of boyfriend's unrelenting verbal assault that we don't really understand. Progression and development told in the medium of music is something I believe this mod does really well. Something that only a few mods do correctly, actually. These days, I have some trouble trying to discern specific emotions from specific songs, and normally that emotion remains static for the entire week. Which isn't a bad thing, flat development is still inherently development. But I like to see growth, change. Mike Gino manages to capture the honey sweet and pure tone with Parrish as Sarventi tries to convince the demon girl and her boyfriend to become brothers in Christ and reach the pearly gates of heaven, and with her vocal sample being that of a church organ, it really immerses you in this vaguely holy environment. Then with her second song, Mike creates a haughtier atmosphere. Worship makes you feel as though Sarv wants you to worship her, after the assumed trouble you've been causing. It's pumpier, sassier. You've created a hole in her perfect ice cream colored mask, and a little bit of her mischievous side is coming out. Then Gospel rips it all off and sends you hurtling into the first circle of hell as Sarventi becomes the fucking devil and no longer gives 2 shits. She'll send you to heaven even if it means flying up there, knocking on St. Paul's door herself, fast and unrelenting. Gospel is the truth. This is Sarventi's true form, and she no longer cares what you think. It feels free and powerful, and the ice cream nun constantly goes on long melodic tangents that we copy to a T. That's what I mean by free. And Mike does well not to let the instrumental overpower the main melodies, something that I feel is a common issue when it comes to a lot more modern mods. He managed to hit the sweet spot of being too empty if it wasn't there, and definitely not enough by itself. The characters' voices need to be heard for this song. Or, in other words, the characters matter. Then perhaps the most famous thing to come out of this mod, Ruvizvat's song, Zavadilla, Russian for someone who starts the party, a ringleader of sorts, fitting for Ruv's past as the Russian Robin fucking Hood. But this song, for all I know, this song could be the party starter because this Russian hard bass got my bass feeling hard. After you start to trash the church up a little, Ruv comes back and gives vague, no, this is pretty clear threats of violence as he picks up the mic and boom boom shakes the room with sub 100 Hz hoo-ha. His vocal sample being that of a rubber band gives the impression that his presence and tone is commanding, while showcasing the fact that he's not a man of words, what with how he has a mountain of double notes and literally no hold notes. I mean, what would a suspended pitch from a rubber band even sound like? Zavadillo forces you to bop your head as you pull out severely aged vodka while your fingers cry at not being able to do the song because the engine is so fucking bad. Honestly, and still probably one of the best songs to come out of this whole thing, and I mean the entire fucking house. Zavadilla earns a gold star for being a certified banger, and I refuse to give one to anyone else. Okay, maybe you. However, the engine still sucked ass. You shut the hell up, I'm trying to make a video here. How do they even get inside? I'm sure I keep this door locked. But this golden goose did have its sliver of silver, a crack in the shield, a fault one could say, and despite its popularity and its status as a legendary mod, in late July of 2021, Midfight Masses was taken down from Game Banana, and Doki Doodles abandoned her identity as she started to receive death threats over a mod that her and her 2 friends created together for fun, for the community to enjoy, all because the mod didn't properly let you hit notes. Perhaps I'm oversimplifying to frame a point. If you think that, you're a fucking idiot. Because who needs to regret making something you love with no malicious intent so hard that you just end up leaving, hoping to never have anything to do with it ever again? The engine used by Midfight Masses wasn't very good. The charting wasn't great either. It made it hard to play the songs. There were attempts to remedy it, but only to mild success. Kurao made the Sarv engine in only a couple of days, but hitting double notes was still hard for it to recognize, and the charting was only decent at best. But the community took this mod's Achilles tendon and slashed it to shreds, perhaps not expecting the thing to fall down to its knees and bleed out, unable to ever walk again, because the collective IQ of any larger-than-life community somehow falls short of a worm slithering around in the dirt trying to escape the sun above. Things only got worse with the introduction of Selva, the hypothetical son of Ruven Sarvente who canonically broke the game to vent frustrations at the community for, I don't know, wanting mod creators who fed them content to actually die because hit reg on arrows wasn't good. Was making him a fuckboy that constantly cursed and insulted the player with slightly bad English a good idea? Probably not. I remember vividly people calling it cringe and shaming the team for making a miner constantly swear. What the fuck? People had a problem with that? Ugh. Either way, antagonizing the player base probably wasn't a smart thing to do. But in times like this, sometimes all you want to do is scream out until your vocal cords tear. Maybe that's what Selva was. A cry for help or a yell of rage. Casanova's still a great song though. Thanks, Mike. There was even this teaser of Selva's younger sister perhaps getting her own song, but that idea would never even get the chance to get off the ground, as Selva's addition to the game only fanned the angry flames of the internet, with purposely bad charting and demeanor, attacking the community with not only words but also his fucking sprites. The internet doesn't take well to passive aggressiveness. Every camel has its breaking point, and what did the Midfight Masses camel hump wasn't a straw but what felt like a solid iron fucking bar, as Doki released a long text on her Instagram story detailing how she was distancing herself from the FNF community and her persona as Doki Doodles. Mike Gino and Kurao continue to work within the community. Mike is still very active in this sphere, releasing albums and songs involving the Midfight duo and occasionally streaming, but the mod itself remained private. A bloody diamond in a glass case, showing how harmful this community could be. The essence of the original FNF, the essence within the joy of creation that brought people together around something that creators love to make. Thrown to the wayside because some other mods let you hit arrows better. Thrown to the wayside is a little tame. Death threats. Stumped to within an inch of its life and kept alive to watch everything it would ever come to love burn to the ground. Much better. Midfight Masses was a project with so much love poured into it that people found it cringe, with subpar charting and an engine that couldn't even keep up, one that made it hated by a subsect within the community, one that barely anyone would really look deep into, writing it off as something that got a ton of downloads by accident, admonishing it for having a sexy nun or an edgelord, perhaps without understanding what went on behind it. Midfight Masses was rough, unpolished, rushed, and to this day it remains one of my favorite mods. People who shared that love continue to make content surrounding it. Selva got a full week with actually crazy good songs, countless animations featuring the cast like Pole's series on YouTube, and a love letter in the form of Date Night Masses, culminating in a cute send-off to Ruven Sarvente to cement them as legendary figures within the Friday Night Funkin' modding community. While it flared and burnt violently, its remembrance is one at least sweeter than most. As the community continued to rise like the mindless mass of consciousness it was, drama and controversy was rife, even the worst kinds pervaded. Every corner you would turn, a mod creator was outed for less than appropriate interactions with the less than appropriate people, or content creators would be flamed for flaming, or by doing mod cases using bot play, earning money by using other people's hard work. Maybe somewhere along the way people just forgot what to get mad at, because just like with Midfight Masses, the hounds started barking and biting at the ankles at the first thing that moved funny. So much so that even the Versus Witty mod got deleted because people got mad that a section of another final song from another mod had a segment that possibly was sampled from Witty's final song. Quite rightly so, the mod creator realized that was dumb as shit and tucked down Witty as a massive middle finger to the community. It was later reinstated as the definitive edition, however, but that would be a while from then. The only constants in this whirlwind were the original Friday Night Funkin' crew, who periodically do keep up with the community and seem like pretty chill dudes. For as creative and wonderful as the modding scene was, bringing people together to make something that they loved, they sure did enjoy taking it all down at the smallest inconvenience. Maybe that's just the nature of things. When something grows so big, it's hard to keep the same values between us all. But even if that is the case, it breaks my heart to see something so loved dragged through the dirt for something so petty. All that only months after the Kickstarter was announced. I guess it's in bad taste to say there was so much action in so little time. The smoldering flame of the FNF community, as dangerous as it is alluring, burning away the things precious and loved while still acting as a beacon for people to come together. Communal flames are hardly a new concept, but after only a year of the original game being released, one could only hope that this beautiful display wouldn't burn out too quickly. And who would have guessed the thing to fan out the flame would have been the Blue Blur himself. What? Hype surrounding Friday Night Funkin' would diminish to the point where it wasn't comparable to the immediate radius surrounding Chernobyl following nuclear fucking meltdown. Mods would release at rates that were easier to catch up with, but the quality arguably got better with time, as most things do. Versus Camellia, featuring the famous composer Camellia, known for his works across multiple rhythm games, brought a more mainstream feel in both music and charting. One I think that is strangely, weirdly underrated. The charting is near unparalleled, with music perfect for this kind of game, but I suppose that just goes to show the importance of charm to a mod's popularity. Friday Night Funkin' is charming by design, and tons of mods get recognition with even a sliver of polish that Versus Camellia had, just by having cool characters or a cohesive story. The Blue Balls incident put a simultaneously memey and creepy spin on the formula, with the unique art style and SCP-like homage. There were enough songs in this mod to fill a Bruno Mars album, and no, don't ask me why that was the first thing to come to mind. FNF Entity was a massive collaborative effort to deliver a solidly memorable performance that was simply good, with returning character Gotti renamed to the Innuendo because of more controversy surrounding the original creator. Great. At least Nikusa's hot. Thank you, Sugar Ratio. Indie Cross gave us familiar characters that basically everyone was waiting for a mod of, and rolled them into a big bowl of creativity that loved its source material so much it culminated in tons of gimmicks that I hated. Twinsomnia, being a super recent release that was simply charming, in the same vein as Cassette Girl or Garcello. That clip really didn't lose a touch, huh? Also, Girl is cute. Oh, fuck! And another favorite of mine, Hotline 024, mainly composed by the fantastic Saruki, whose funky samples and resonation with the memosphere, fuck, why did I write that? Simply provides banger after banger. Hidden ARGs, puzzles, lore, this mod really keeps you on your toes. Also, Niku is cute. And of course, Sonic.exe, and all appropriate successors slash spin-offs slash inspired materials. Well then. You see, there's always been this constant misconception that has existed about as long as Friday Night Funkin' has. It's only caused more harm than good to the more cognizant part of the community, and the stigma routinely has. Perhaps it's the art style or the creative direction. Newgrounds was once known for its games and animations after all. But Friday Night Funkin' being perceived as a kid's game makes a little more sense than I'd like to admit. What with how vibrant the whole shebang was from the get-go, it's honestly a surprise someone hasn't put the entire thing on the YouTube Kids shelf next to Cocomelon. Oh, fuck. It's really easy to get kids on board with things this colorful. Phantom Arcade's art style, while having the potential to make you go "aww," does also have the potential to make you go "aww." Boyfriend and girlfriend, being the poster children of both the main game and a lot of popular mods, may have given the impression to some that this game where you go beep and boop and hit arrows is as cute and fluffy as those characters. It isn't funny. Well, maybe a little. The fact that the premise of this game is to have sex with your girlfriend after rapping about it for weeks on end, somehow becoming synonymous with made for kids, is slightly amusing. But what little amusement you could glean from that thought is quickly overshadowed by the amount of problems that such a preconceived notion brought with it. Retrospector's mod received backlash and temporary suspension because of big furry moth titties. We're talking about the same game that had this character in it, people. Calm the fuck down, will you? A high-quality mod, produced by a well-known cover artist with great art to boot. Its downfall was not horrendous charting, nor malicious practice from the dev team, nay, its downfall was furry boobs. I'm just gonna let that sink in. And while a good chunk of the FNF community are not actual toddlers with hot shit streaming out of their diapers, at least I hope, I don't think I'm completely wrong when I say that a nice percentage of the content consumers are on the younger side of things. You see, the thing with kids is that they're easily enamored and infinitely curious. With the internet the way it is, that curiosity can be satiated way too easily, and people barely out of the double digits can be exposed to way too much, way too soon. Soon enough, they get exposed to the concept of indie horror. It's new for them, exciting. The mystery and thrill behind it almost makes up for the terrifyingly horrible PNG jump scare at the end of the tunnel. Slenderman, Jeff the Killer, Smile Dog, and if those don't ring a bell, what about Mandela Catalog and the Backrooms? Right. The concept of indie horror or found footage and creepypasta has existed for as long as the internet at this point, and kids won't help but get curious about that sort of thing. I should know. I was too scared to open the fridge at night because I thought Jeff the Killer would jump scare me like a withered old man trapped in a springlock suit. That, of course, includes Sonic.exe and its many spin-off/inspired media. There should really be a universal internet rule about it at this point, and if there was, I wouldn't bat an eye. That rule being, if it exists on the internet, there will probably be a Friday Night Funkin' mod about it. This goes doubly so for any popular trend or meme. So then, when Sonic.exe finally got an FNF mod about it, it was a niche little thing that got a decent amount of attention with its creep/gore factor, in what is, again, at a glance, a kid's game. And that should have just been that, but we've been over this. Things continued to pile on. What was once a single song eventually got an update into what became an entire week, with a breathtaking 8-minute final song with like 5 new sprites, with like a new perspective and 5 keys, not to mention the shit ton of Sonic.exe spin-offs as extra content. Sonic has always had this privilege, no, misfortune? No, unique case. Sonic has always had this unique case of having lots of fan content. Something that FNF can relate to, perhaps. That didn't just stop with official content, however. Fan content like Sonic.exe is apparently similar because everyone and their grandmother and their grandmother's stepson's dog has a version of Sonic.exe locked up somewhere in their basement. And with Sonic.exe taking center stage, those people began to dig up that repressed creativity and wanted a slice of that creepy rhythm cake. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. If this hasn't been apparent to you, here's a piece of advice. Watch the video from the start, you lazy bum. I love creation. And people finding the chance to take advantage of their creativity and build something they love is perhaps the truest beauty of the human species. But despite everything, you can have too much of a good thing. Sonic.exe had its finger in so many pies at this point. There was something for everyone. And by everyone, I mean everyone. To the detriment of the mod even, with the official team cancelling the second launch update following the one that included, let me remind you, an 8-minute song. The workload was too much. There was an overflow of content. Everyone who had loved Sonic.exe all those years ago, the ones who are now just making stories based off it, and the impressionable consumers who may now just be learning about its existence. So much content. So much demand. It was popular. This kind of thing got attention. People loved it. Certain people. Impressionable people. Now, I'm no psychologist, and I'm hardly qualified to talk about the human condition, but hear me out. People are attracted to extremes. Specifically when those extremes are bridged. It's why people like to have hot chocolate cake with ice cream or freshly grilled burger with a milkshake. It's why the idea of gap moe exists. Uppers and downers, a sharp contrast in initial expectation. That's why when a kid's game, quotation marks, like Night Funkin gets mixed with something so obviously, scary, quotation marks, people go wild. It's that contrast, that gap that drew the impressionable in, because younger audiences tend to give in to their curiosity and interest a little easier than most. Whether it was an actual large percentage or simply the vocal minority, it was undeniable that everyone knew about Sonic.exe. You simply weren't allowed to exist without being aware, because younger people were also quite pushy. Show and tell was a thing for a reason. The want and need to share something that you like and feel validated for liking it. They want to see other people feel the same thing that they're feeling, amplify the appreciation that they have, this unseen sympathetic connection, one that pushes different ideas away and pulls in those who think similarly. Why do you think reaction content is still a thing? Hell, Let's Plays adhere to this sort of thing. Yes, we're going back to the early 2010s of YouTube. While some people want to experience a game or series for the first time with the creator, others may have already played the game and want to see how someone else feels about certain sections or scenes. But eventually, we move past just creators. People wanted everyone even remotely interested in FNF to know about this so-called gap in expectation. So people continued to push Sonic.exe and its idea forward, and so the demand for this sort of thing skyrocketed even further. PB's corruption slowly began to snowball into the painfully large following it has today, with how it distorts childhood imagery and famous cartoons into disgusting blobby amalgamations. One of these days it's gonna reach Paw Patrol or something and get 5 million views on YouTube for fuck's sake, ugh. Mario's Madness was the Nintendo poster boy's turn at a creepy debut, and received moderate amounts of success with its visuals. Okay, maybe a little more than moderate. Sunday Night Suicide. If you need me to spell it out for you, get your ears checked, I just did. Even more recently with Mistful Crimson Morning, an FNF take on the popular creepypasta of Squidward suicide. Are we sure we don't need to call someone about this? My exasperation is exaggerated, obviously. Mostly. Sonic.exe continued to be popular too. Unfinished content that was put out got the red carpet treatment. People delivered full fan releases of songs in weeks, covers everywhere you went. A testament to the creativity of a select few, to be sure, but perhaps at the cost of Friday Night Funkin's image. To some, this sort of thing was cool, seeing the cute fun world of FNF become twisted and anarchic. To others, it was, again, cringe. It's just cheap thrills made with no effort to get the attention of kids who think it's cool. Some people found it interesting, others tossed it aside without a real thought, waiting for something else to catch their eye. But there was no denying that the mainstream portrayal of Friday Night Funkin' for the foreseeable future was going to be this sort of indie horror idea, childish at first glance with a slight gory thrill underneath. A misplaced demographic, a single mod that countless resonated with, the overflow of a specific type of content being supplied to that very demographic. Wrong place, wrong time, one might say. Not me, I don't particularly care. That's just the way things ended up. As long as I get more mods that I like, I'm happy. And it's perhaps that mentality that continually feeds what kind of mods Friday Night Funkin' gets today. Dear God, who's happy with this? Yet the instrumental borders on this almost club disco vibe with sucking snare and powerful pumping brass. Fuck, brass? Bass, you fucking idiot. Who wrote this script? I did! I wrote this script! Mike Gino manages to capture the honey sweet and pure fucking hell.